Hey, you jabronis. Headlines from within the wrestling sphere. MJF heals out Mickey Mouse. Which wrestlers are headed to greener pastures? And Billy Gunn can't lace Kyle Fletcher's boots? Plus, we learn about the Undertaker's creative vision for AAA. And we hear the Deadman's feelings on Lucha Libre as is. Let me give you a hint. Ay, ay, ay. No me gusta. Plus, Trey Miguel, you're so fired, you're rehired. We're going to dissect this debacle and learn what the hell happened and who the hell is Trey Miguel. Plus, you go to the movies with little Timmy Baltimore as I review The Smashing Machine, starring everybody's favorite WrestleMania no-show, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Except this time, I'm holding the popcorn. I'm not falling for that trick again. All that nonsense and so much more nonsense. We're going to speculate wildly and irresponsibly. Come walk slowly with the brother, and if I trip, you only get to laugh if I laugh first. Let's go!
Let me get rid of cigarettes. Give me a countdown, will you?
Blood streaming, 10,000 screaming!
Yeah. Baltimore, you will never guess what I'm watching.
My name is my name.
You chose to live in Baltimore.
What's wrong with Tim?
Welcome, everyone. This is, and I am, Timmy Baltimore. I want to thank you for making me a part of your entertainment week. And if you haven't done so already, please click subscribe, click like, turn on the notifications, comment on our content, go to the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all them Johns. And the handle is at Timmy Baltimore. If you go to the YouTube channel, it's limpinainteasy is the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I want to thank the guys that, the fans that also comment regularly. And that's a hard word to say sometimes. Regularly. To all the fans that comment regularly, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And please help me spread the word about this show. We got a little bit of a new format. We're still going to do the interviews, like I said. But man, I just got tired of being quiet, not doing a show, and frankly, chasing down people who should probably be chasing me down for an interview. Just saying. Just a little pop, pop from the hip, just warming the guns up, baby. Just warming them up. All right, let's get to our newest segment on the show, Rapid Fire Headlines. Telegram, telephone, tell a wrestler. It's the Stooge Report. MJF has never been a member of the Bullet Club, but he just may be an honorary member of the Mickey Mouse Club because Maxwell Jacob Friedman sat down with Walt Disney World News to discuss his love and affinity for the Walt Disney World brand and the theme parks. He was quoted as saying, "I find professional wrestling and Disney specifically share a lot in common." He's not wrong. I mean, both Disney and wrestling have ridiculously long lines to meet their fictional stars. Those lines happen to be populated by fan bases that some would say lack personal hygiene. I mean, one of the fan bases is in need of a bath and a change of a diaper, and the other is children and infants. Furthermore, professional wrestling and Disney have another thing in common. They're both geared towards the capturing of the imagination and wonderment of children, but ultimately are ruined by the strange adults who take it too seriously. And MJF, the AEW champ, exposed himself as being one of those adults when, boy, you love to hear the devil of professional wrestling say this about the Animal Kingdom changing their 1998's Bug's Life ride to update it to a Zootopia ride. MJF called this an act of terrorism. It's good to know that the champ keeps everything in perspective as far as what's wrong in the world. He went on to say, and this is a very specific grievance, MJF is quoted as saying, "I watched the show," talking about the new Zootopia ride. "I watched the show, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. There's nothing good about it. It made no sense." Absolutely horrible. Nothing good about it. Made no sense. Wait a minute. Are we talking about the Zootopia ride or AEW Dynamite here? What the hell else is going on in the world? Get a douche. Hey, the mass exodus of New Japan Pro Wrestling continues as the company released a statement on their website that reads in part, Evil will leave New Japan Wrestling at the end of January 2026. New Japan Pro Wrestling wishes Evil all the best in his future activities. Who would have thought that Evil leaving a company would be bad for the company? But good for Evil. And isn't it just like the Japanese to be polite enough to wish Evil the best in all its future activities, such as famine and death and anything else nefarious they may be up to? What the hell else? Oh, this is a good one. NXT standout Sol Ruca sat down with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful recently, where she discussed a number of things, including her big win over Bayley at December's Saturday night's main event. Sol Ruca also, being very self-aware, touched on the thing that brought her to the dance, and that is that really unique, crazy wild finisher known as the Soul Snatcher, which is basically a springboard front flip cutter. And that's not even doing it justice. The move has received a lot of praise, she said, most notably from Triple H. So that helps. However, she did say, and she anticipated this, that the internet fan base has been pretty critical of the move. And their biggest critique here is that the move is too situational. That's right, too situational. Meaning that I think they're trying to say that the circumstances that allow the move to be executed are a little bit too contrived for it to be a believable finisher. What the hell are we talking about here? The opponent stands there dazed, right? She runs up in the corner on the ropes and hits him with the deal, hits him with the Fernum. How is that any different? That's situational. Yeah, they got to stand there dazed. The RKO, the opponent, has to be dazed and stand up unawares to get hit with it out of nowhere. That's situational. How about the tsunami out of Bronson Reed, right? Opponent's got to be laying prone, supine on the mat for the big man to get up on that top rope and splash him. I mean, isn't it all situational? All this is situational. None of it is believable, dog. It's pro wrestling. Like, what are we talking about here? Save your bitching and complaining for when the Soul Snatcher goes the way of the Canadian Destroyer and guys are using it and girls are using it as false finishes in the second match on the card. Until then, just enjoy the hot chick that does the cool move. Damn, y'all. Here's another one. Whew. Always making headlines. You know, they say as journalists, you want to keep yourself out of the story, right? Well, obviously, Dave Meltzer didn't learn that lesson. Dave Meltzer, on his Wrestling Observer radio show, talked about a comparison that was made on AEW Collision between Billy Gunn and Kyle Fletcher. Meltzer replied to that comparison, and this is his quote. Billy Gunn on his best day isn't half the wrestler that Kyle Fletcher is today. Probably not a third. Billy Gunn is from that era, so he must be better than these guys, is what Meltzer said, you know, kind of sarcastically. He continues, Kyle Fletcher might legitimately be top 5, top 7 in the world. Do you think Billy Gunn was ever top 200? Not taking anything away from either athlete, Fletcher nor Billy Gunn. They're both fantastic in their own right. But I think what Dave meant to say here was this, because it really chapped his ass. I think he meant to say that Billy Gunn came from an era where Dave was treated like what he is, a mark with an opinion and a voice and a newsletter and sources. Therefore, Billy never put Dave Meltzer over. He never had time for Dave Meltzer. In fact, he did nothing to justify Dave's existence within the ecosystem of wrestling. But then something crazy happens, right? 15, 20 years ago, something crazy happens. That generation of kids who grew up as diehard wrestling fans, big-time marks, were reading the dirt sheets. And then they get into the business, and now all of a sudden, holy shit, Dave Meltzer, he's credible. He's a guy that they listen to. So if you look at a guy like Kyle Fletcher, young Kyle Fletcher, growing up in Australia as a big wrestling fan, deciding to cut his teeth in Japan, no doubt this guy prays at the altar of Dave Meltzer. And quite frankly, I think that's what Meltzer is saying. Billy Gunn has no use for him, but Kyle may return my phone calls. So it's just funny, man. Like, we're comparing a 27-year-old wrestler who's about to hit his prime to a 60-year-old wrestler who has never really left his prime. God dang, man. Wrestling is hilarious and it is crazy. And I love it and hate it all at the same time. Powerhouse Hobbs, gone from AEW, signed with the WWE, and his career says, phew, that was a close one. That's right, like a wayward ship lost at sea. Powerhouse Hobbs has been invited aboard and rescued by the SSTKO, and the only thing he has to do is change his name to Royce Keys. Royce Keys, Roy's hat, Roy's phone, Roy's coat. Who gives a shit, right? Just call him a WWE superstar, because a guy with that look hits a ceiling in AEW. And that look, I mean the look, the airport test look, the VKM, the Vincent Kennedy McMahon look that he liked. The guys who look like they're somebody who, when they walk through an airport, civilians turn and go, I don't know what he does, but he does something. Quite frankly, a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs is not going to get over wrestling the same competitive match with a Danny Garcia as he would with a Chris Jericho. But that's what happens in AEW. But in WWE, well, you know, a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs or Royce Keys, whatever the hell you want to call him, he can get over by having decisive, destructive matches with lower mid-carder guys to then build up to somebody who has some credibility in the fans' minds, gets a little bit more competitive, but then Hobbs goes over on them. Hence, he starts to get over. Hobbs can also get over if they put a mouthpiece with him, like a Paul Heyman, perhaps, who can tout to the wrestling audience the destructive force in WWE that is Royce Keys. There's also the ability for Hobbs to become a heater. You know, maybe there's a superstar that's just right there, you know, almost a star, but missing that one key ingredient that give him that little shove right over the edge into superstardom. See early heel HBK and Diesel, possibly Ricky Starks. That might work. Starks or Ricky Saints, not exactly setting the world on fire on NXT, so maybe that could be the little relationship that that really takes it off. And they do have history in AEW, but that's not saying much, right? Because Hobbs has history with everybody in AEW. I mean, how many times did it start for this guy? How many times was he turned babyface, turned heel, turned babyface? How many times was he put with a manager? Here you go, Hobbs. You're with Taz now. Oh, wait, never mind. I think we're going to put you with QT Marshall. Does that work for you? No, that doesn't work for you. How about the Don Callis family? Oh, no, don't worry about it, Hobbs. Now we're going to put you with Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata, and you'll be the Hobbs, where are you going? Where are you going, Hobbs? Hobbs can't get over in AEW. Not a lot of people can. AEW is sick. They're broken with the booking that is unable, once guys get over, to keep them over, to elevate them to a status where they can actually draw money. So good on you, Powerhouse Hobbs. Get the hell out of there. Although, I did hear, and rumor has it, I did hear this at his last AEW TV appearance, as Hobbs was pulling out of the parking lot from the arena. There was a faint voice calling from the distance. It was Wardlow, and he was saying, Hobbs, take me with you. All right, kayfabe all that. You didn't hear it from me. That's the Stooge Report. Deadman booking. Our first story is a really interesting one, and it's got a lot of meat on the bones. Of course, I'm talking about the WWE, their acquisition of AAA Lucha Libre, their decision to place the Undertaker in the spearheading position of creative direction for the company, and what that means for the WWE's plans internationally. The expansion into the Latin American market has been something that the WWE has been very vocal about, very aggressive. We saw these steps start to be taken in the early to mid 2000s with guys like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio being placed on top of the card. It was a calculated risk and it paid off. Here's why: because if you're somebody who watches wrestling, it's like, if I can see him, I can be him. And it's just in our DNA, in our nature, to gravitate towards things that look like us. The WWE wanted to expand within the Latin American market, but to do that, they couldn't just have Latin American talent occupy the mid card or the lower card. They needed a guy. Latin America, the Latins needed their guy, a guy that looked like them, that talked like them, that understood them. And that came in the form of the late great Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. And things started to progress from there where it became the norm from guys like Alberto Del Rio being featured in main event spots. I know they had hopes for Andrade in that sense. Modern day, it's still Rey Mysterio. Penta's being positioned in a really high spot. Ray Fenix to a lesser degree with Dragon Lee. And of course, the future is Dirty Dominic Mysterio. So it's really interesting that they would then have The Undertaker be involved in any of this, but that's what's happening right now. Let's talk about what Lucha Libre is and what WWE has defined it as and how they're presenting and packaging this thing because it's really, really confusing, unique, and interesting. What is Lucha Libre? Well, for years now, we've heard Michael Cole and WWE announcers talk during mainly Rey Mysterio matches, but other matches as well, about the rich history of Lucha Libre, the cultural history of Lucha Libre, and its masks on the luchadors are like a religion, and so on and so forth. And you fast forward to last year's WrestleMania when the WWE announced that they had purchased a majority stake in AAA Lucha Libre, about 51%. That makes them the majority owner. Now, there are a lot of Lucha Libre promotions in Mexico. The two top ones are AAA and CMLL. They both kind of switch off periodically between who takes the top spot. WWE is obviously trying to change that. And since purchasing and acquiring the AAA promotion, they've started as WWE to air shows and events on their YouTube page, as well as sending talent down there to AAA to work with the talent there. They're sending their announcers in JBL and Corey Graves. They're sending Penta. They're sending Rey Mysterio, and of course, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. They're sending El Grande Americano, who's a character that was created specifically for AAA and for WWE to kind of have their spies and their talent there to make sure things go their way and that they stick to the script and formula that WWE wants. Of course, that El Grande Americano was originally played by Chad Gable under a hood, but is now played by Ludwig Kaiser, who's fantastic and really showing his range. I mean that. That sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't. So now that WWE has skin in the Lucha Libre game, they've begun to push their product on the fan base, right? And the American fan base. But I want you to ask the average American wrestling fan, what is Lucha Libre? Tell me, what is Lucha Libre? And I guarantee you the majority of people, and this is no fault of their own, are going to spout off some WWE packaged microwavable rhetoric about the rich history, the Mexican culture, the luchadors. They'll probably say something along the lines, or maybe an image of a luchador in a suit wearing a mask, or a luchador in the shower wearing a mask may come to mind. The truth is, here in America, we don't know anything. We know almost nothing about Lucha Libre and why it makes it so popular in its country of origin. Most of us have never even sat down to watch AAA or Lucha Libre. I know I hadn't. I mean, I'd seen some Triple Manias, and that's AAA's big event of the year. It's like their WrestleMania. I'd seen some Triple Manias, and not until I started watching Pluto TV's AAA channel did I actually take in some content from AAA. So I've now seen a fair amount of the product, and I did that by tuning into Pluto TV. But the fact of the matter is, WWE, and this is big, they haven't told us what Lucha Libre truly is. How many times when WWE is pushing something, they tell us, no, they tell us they're going to tell us, they tell us, and then they tell us they told us. They are big on that. They beat you over the head with it. But they haven't told us what the hell what the hell Lucha Libre is, or except that it's a rich Mexican tradition. What the hell does that mean? There are differences. So let me break down some of the differences in the rules and for those without the benefit of visual. I'm doing the quotation fingers for the rules because wrestling's fake. There are no really rules. It's a show pretending to be a sport. Sorry to burst your bubble. There are differences, though, in the rules. For instance, there's a 20 count for a count out as opposed to a 10 count. There's a lot of 2 out of 3 falls matches. There's a lot of tag teams, 6-mans, which they call trios, 4 8-man tags, and tags in Lucha Libre don't have to be done with tag-to-tag partner, like a contact with the tag partner. In America, it's supposed to be you hold the rope and open palm tag to an open palm, but it's become just tag a body part. In Mexico and Lucha Libre, you don't have to do that. Somebody just has to roll out of the ring, and then the partner on the apron can hop in the ring, and they're the legal competitor. There's also some practical differences that only really affect the performers. In Lucha Libre in Mexico, they work the right side of the body as opposed to the left side. Don't know why. It's just the way it is. I know in America, or in the traditional sense, I believe the reason we work the left side is because most people are right-handed. So it's easier to reverse, to maneuver out of holds and things like that for the majority of the population, which is right-handed. There's differences in body types. In Lucha Libre, there's either the high flyers, and they're usually either, if they're not smaller, they're more athletic. And then you have the bases, and these guys are basically the human jungle gyms for the high flyers. They're a little more stout, maybe a little portly, but they have a low center of gravity so that the luchadors can literally spin around them like they're a damn jungle gym. There's also like some really inherent differences. And I think there's some very real reasons why WWE hasn't educated us to what AAA and Lucha Libre are. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute, because they haven't gotten past just informing us on the surface level sort of like identity of the style. And I believe the reason lies in the fundamental differences that exist between the AAA Mexican Lucha Libre style and the American WWE style. These fundamental differences also have huge implications on what Triple H is, what Triple H is, what Triple A is, and what Triple H wants Triple A to become. If you go and watch an hour of Triple A, please do that that's your homework. Go watch an hour of Triple A on Pluto TV. It's free. And you're going to likely ask yourself a lot of questions. You're going to go, what the hell is going on? Why is it so chaotic? Why are there like 8 people at ringside? Why are there 10 different clowns? Dr. Wagner Jr., he doesn't even look like a real doctor, not even by Mexican standards. The wrestling is just so different. It doesn't seem as good. But again, the crowds are going absolutely apeshit. And here's the point which will lead us to the Undertaker's involvement in the company. Yes, AAA does have larger than life characters. They have sex appeal. They have just astounding, crazy athleticism, grand entrances, rudos or heels, technicos or baby faces, personal storylines, vendettas, heat, blood, all those things. The fundamental differences that make American fans say, I like Mysterio, but I can't get with this Lucha Libre shit. The fact of the matter is, AAA and Lucha Libre are completely void of selling, of psychology, and thus traditional storytelling. This brings us to The Undertaker. Undertaker wanting to get out of the house, I imagine, and just begging for something to do where his wife doesn't come to work with him. He appeared on What Do You Want to Talk About with Cody Rhodes. That's Cody's podcast. And the Deadman said, and I quote, "My vision is to," no, I'm not going to do the voice the whole time. Just kidding. "My vision is to almost take a step back to step forward." Pause. Wouldn't that put you in the same exact space? If I take one step back to take a step, isn't it one step, one step forward? No, one step back, 2 steps forward. I didn't even get it right. So what am I doing? Busting his balls. Anyway, my vision is to almost take a step back to step forward. I'm really high on the physicality and the actual in-ring stuff, and things making sense, which is kind of difficult from where I've come from and then working with AAA. The Lucha Libre legacy is incredible. I'm trying to honor that, but give more production value to the product and help story tell a little better. You talk about incredible athletes and the things that they can do, it's amazing. And the following they have is amazing. So I can take the best of Lucha Libre and the best of what I know, I can mold them together, and I think we're going to have something that's really, really special down here. Down where? Down there. Allow me to translate. So basically, Undertaker's saying, yes, the history, the lore, the branding, the identity of Lucha Libre, the crowds, holy shit, they're great. But the execution, the wrestling, the actual meat and potatoes, well, the execution is kind of the drizzling shits. And frankly, I'm inclined to agree. The Undertaker's speaking diplomatically here and not trying to offend, but what he's really saying, and it translates to this, is I want to implement selling. I want to implement traditional psychology to this product. If you watch AAA, if you watch Lucha Libre, it's a fireworks show style of wrestling. It has an exhibition feel, breakneck pace. There's no stakes really, unless it's like mask versus mask or mask versus career. And it feels almost like turn based. Here's kind of how a Lucha Libre match goes. To an American person watching, it's like, okay, you're going to do a bunch of stuff to me, and I'm going to keep getting up, and you're going to keep doing it to me without consequence, without trying to win. So it has no implications on the overall result of the match. And then when it's my turn, I'm going to stop selling, and I'm going to do a bunch of to you. I'm not going to try to pin you. I'm not going to try to win. I'm just going to do a bunch of flashy stuff to you that pops the crowd. And you're not going to sell because selling slows things down. And if you slow things down, I'm not getting my shit in. So when you're selling, I'm not getting my shit in. And if I'm not getting my shit in, but you got your shit in, what are you trying to bury me, cabron? Then we will come to the part where we agreed that the referee would count 3 on that move, and that'll be the end of the match with no climax, with no crescendo, because nothing we did throughout the match built to that finish. That's Lucha Libre. It's a fireworks show. So you compare that type of style to a WWE style match. Let's take like Braun Breaker versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight title that happened the beginning of January. Now, this is not a classic match by any means, but the story is right there. Braun Breaker is the young, hungry, dangerous, prime athlete. CM Punk is the champ. He's grizzled. He's weather-worn, but he's battle-tested and he's crafty, sly. He knows all the ins and outs. Well, Braun Breaker is going to go full bore ahead and try to just decimate CM Punk, and he can. But Braun Breaker is so arrogant, so cocky, so over-eager to taste that victory, to become the champ for the first time, secure that top spot for the very first time, that he's going to make a mistake. And when he does, CM Punk, ever the wily veteran, one kill shot, and CM Punk escapes with the win, with his title, and with his life, but just barely. So that's the difference. If you put those two next to each other, do you see how one is just moves and the other is actually a story with moves and motive behind the moves? And you put all that together, right? You put the Undertaker's vision for AAA, WWE's global aspirations, the small differences, the inherent differences, and some questions, some very important questions come to mind for me. Since AAA is very popular in Mexico, is the Mexican audience's affinity for Lucha Libre, is it a cultural thing or is it an environmental thing? Meaning, is it something that's just inherent in them that they love that style? Or is it something that just because they've grown up with it, they didn't have access to other things? Is that the case? Is it a nurture or nature type of deal? In the UK, they don't put ice in their soft drinks. I'm from America. That's freaking gross. You give me the choice between a cold soda and a warm soda. I'm going to take the cold soda every time. But the UK and the Brits, they don't seem to mind. So I ask, is that like a cultural difference? Or is it just that they get on, isn't it? So I have to ask myself if the Mexican crowds gravitate towards that lucha libre style, if they were given an alternative, if they were given access to a more comprehensive psychology-based storytelling type of wrestling, would they choose that or would they stick with lucha libre? I don't know the answer to that question. But guess what? Neither does the WWE and neither does the Undertaker. And that's my point. That is exactly why the WWE hasn't educated us, hasn't told us how to feel, what they want us to feel, how they want us to digest AAA and the Lucha Libre product. Because they don't know how they want to present it. Because they know right now, and this is going to be really crucial, for the WWE right now, they need to proceed forth with tact, with caution, if they adopt that American strong arm, colonialistic habits of it's the American way or the highway and anything else is shit, it's ripe for backfire. Look, I happen to personally enjoy the American style. I think it's the best. I love storytelling. And I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that the reason I love it is because I love a great story. I love twists. I love turns that happen within the Bible, within the rules of the story that push those rules. I love memorable moments that are created and pay off my emotional investment. I can say all of that. And I may believe it to be true. But the fact of the matter is, I was indoctrinated by WWF entertainment at a very impressionable age, and it had such an effect on me that even as a handicapped spinal cord injury kid, I pursued wrestling vehemently as a career. So I think it's sort of a similar situation with the Mexican audience and AAA. They love lucha libre. Mexico loves lucha libre. They love it. Maybe that's not for us to understand. And it's certainly not for us to tell them how to make it better, what's worse. That's not for us to say. Because at the end of the day, isn't it about what works? Isn't it about selling tickets, TV rights, merchandise, content, engagement? Most importantly, giving the fans what they want, giving the paying audience what it desires. If this is the case, look, AAA sells out 20,000 seat arenas for their big shows. I'd say it's working. So if WWE comes in, starts inserting their will on the product, they may be in danger of trying to fix something that ain't broke. My final question is, and it's one that WWE is going to have to answer, and it is, who is AAA for? Who's it for? What's the desired target audience? Is WWE hoping to just expand AAA within Mexico, within the confines of that country? I doubt it. No. The more likely scenario is this is part of WWE's plan for global domination within the sports entertainment and entertainment market. They want to increase their visibility within the Latin American market. And an essential part to that business plan is the acquisition of AAA. And it is the packaging and presentation of AAA Lucha Libre to that American audience, which again is exactly why the WWE hasn't told us what Lucha Libre is, because they are confident that as is, if they package, bottle, box, and sell Lucha Libre as is to the American market will reject it. So WWE has to first determine what they want the product to be. Then they have to decide the changes they want to implement and how to make those changes without completely stripping the DNA, gutting the identity, and everything that makes Lucha Libre so special and so popular to the public in Mexico. Therefore, I suggest that it be Deadman walking cautiously. Sure, WWE has enough money to make AAA the most well-produced product in all of Mexico and all of wrestling if they want to. But when The Undertaker starts talking about his creative vision and essentially changing the very fabric of lucha, you may have a problem here, because I guarantee you, when he starts talking that kind of mess, the veterans in the back, the guys in AAA, they're raising their eyebrows. They're going, this motherfucker. And that raises paranoia, it raises suspicions, and it drops morale. Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. Imagine if AAA were the leading brand of professional wrestling in the world. And now imagine if AAA wanted to buy WWE. So they send one of their guys to watch the WWE product. What do you think he'd say? He'd probably go, holy shit, there's not enough action. It's all talking and commercials. The show started, the cold open with what happened last week. Then we had the theme song. Then we have music and entrance for a 20-minute promo at the top of the show. Then we go to a commercial. Then we come back from a commercial and we recap what just happened in the damn promo that was 20 minutes. Then we have a backstage interviewer segment where the guy involved in the promo in the first segment is setting up the main event. Then we finally have music and entrance for the first heel in the first match of the night. But as the heel is coming down the aisle, we pitch to another commercial. Then we come back and we're back in the ring, still heel music and entrance. Then we hit music for babyface entrance. Here comes the babyface. They're in the ring. Ding, ding, ding. 45 minutes has gone by and not a single piece of action has happened. Are you kidding me? How do you think the Mexican audience or somebody who's well-versed in the Mexican style of wrestling would look at that. They'd say, this is boring. This is the drizzling shits. No me gusta. Caca. We should have had 2 exciting matches before 45 minutes was up. We need to fix this. We need to cut all these promos. We need to let the talent do their talking and get over bell to bell. Imagine this happening. How do you think Jey Uso and the WWE and roster back there would feel about that? How do you think they'd think if somebody came and talked about them that way? In public, if you will. Listen, some things are just different, right? No better, no worse. They're just different. And WWE should exercise some caution, some understanding, some tact in sending The Undertaker to goozle AAA and chokeslam its spotty, nonsensical style straight to hell. Otherwise, AAA, Lucha Libre, and WWE's plans for world domination could very well rest in power. Moving right along, Trey Miguel had the busiest and most bittersweet week of his entire professional wrestling career, as on January 14th, he was hired by AEW only to be fired 2 or 3 days later, and then he was rehired and re-debuted with TNA Impact in their second week on AMC TV. This whole debacle, we're going to dissect it. We're going to compare and contrast that which we know to be true against that which we've been told to be true, and then in the end, we'll surmise and make an assumption on what we think actually happened. This whole thing starts with a ragtag group known as the Rascals. And it was announced 2 weeks ago that AEW had signed the entire group, all 4 members of the Rascals, to contracts where they would be performing together, reunited on a national platform. The group consists of Desmond Xavier, who in his time in NXT was known as Wes Lee, Zachary Wentz, who during his time in NXT was known as Nash Carter, more on him later, Myron Reed, and the belle of the ball, our homecoming king, Trey Miguel. In the Midwest indie wrestling scene, factions, stables are a big part of that area. It's just indicative of the region. It's just a thing they do. And the Rascals are arguably the most popular group on that scene. They've been together for about 8 to 10 years, I believe. It was in 2020 that the WWE made a move to hire all the members of the group, the Rascals. However, I believe Myron Reed was under an MLW contract, womp womp, and Trey Miguel decided to stay with TNA Impact. So it was Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz who went to NXT, and they were respectively known as Wes Lee and Nash Carter, collectively known as MSK. Whatever the hell that means, I don't believe we were ever told. Nevertheless, the group had quite an indie buzz. So, if you're a diehard wrestling fan, especially one from the Midwest, hearing the news that the Rascals were reunited and under the roof of AEW and on a national stage, that probably may have been pretty exciting news for certain wrestling fans. However, the excitement was short-lived because it was announced Trey Miguel was released from his contract, leaving 3 of the Rascals in AEW and 1 out in the cold. So what the hell happened? Let's get to the official, unofficial reason that we were given for Trey Miguel being let go so hastily by AEW. And I say it's unofficial because AEW hasn't really made a statement on it. However, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez on their podcast, The Wrestling Observer Radio, talked about the sudden release of Trey Miguel from AEW being due to a 6-year-old Facebook post that Trey Miguel put out, I guess, firing off on a troll. And in the post, which I'm not going to repeat, basically the gist of it is that Trey was calling this person on Facebook saying they're gay because they're ugly and they're ugly because they're gay, which is a horrible thing to say. But it's especially stupid to say in the social climate of 2020. Now, naturally, Trey Miguel backpedaled, said he was sorry, couldn't believe he made this mistake, and I've only met the guy twice. I've called a couple of his matches, so I can't speak to whether or not he was remorseful or whether or not that post was indicative of his true character. What I can say is that Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez were adamant that this decision to release Trey Miguel suddenly came from above. What do you like from God? Like, what does that mean? Well, I think the implication is that it didn't come from talent and it didn't come from Tony Khan, which would mean it came from what? Warner Brothers Discovery? That's the parent company, I guess. So, I mean, we've seen instances like this go down, in particular with Jay Briscoe. The Briscoe brothers, undoubtedly one of the greatest acts and tag teams in modern wrestling history, were effectively blackballed and never hired by AEW as a team because of some comments or a post that Jay Briscoe made a number of years ago, and he was never forgiven for it. It only was marked and permitted to come to AEW and hired after the tragic passing of his brother. So we've seen this kind of thing before, so it's not completely outside of the realm of possibility. However, one of the things that makes me speculate whether or not the real reason for Trey Miguel's release was that of a 6-year-old Facebook post is the fact that AEW didn't fire Zachary Wentz. It was in 2022 when Wentz was under a WWE contract on the NXT brand, and he was also in the midst of a divorce from a former NXT talent in her own right, his then wife, Kimberly. So apparently, Kimberly allegedly released a private photo that Zachary had sent to his friends or friend, where he is sporting a Hitler mustache and giving the old Hitler Zig Heil hand motion, which, bonehead move, ill advised. I don't think it necessarily makes the guy a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer or an anti Semite. I think he was just an idiot who sent some dumb stuff to his scumbag friends. And Zachary Wentz learned the hard way that it is not our enemies who ultimately betray us. And in 2022, Zachary Wentz was fired. Which begs the question, why fire one rascal for one offense and not fire the other rascal for a comparable offense? Why keep one and let go of the other? Now, this may have been a non story. It would have been a non story and a mystery that we didn't think was worth solving because neither the participants involved nor their actions would have been interesting enough to care. However, that is until we learned that an ignorant ass Facebook post from Trey Miguel may not be the only ghost from his past that has come to haunt him. That's right. You see, for about 6 years, Trey Miguel was dating Canadian wrestling personality and backstage interviewer Alicia Atout. Who gives a shit, right? I'll tell you who gives a shit. Her husband, who happens to be the AEW World Champion and the number one top guy in all elite wrestling. That's right, MJF. MJF gives a shit. He probably gives all the shits. Now, who's to say what the relationship was like between Trey Miguel and Alicia Atout? Who knows whether it was healthy? Who knows whether it was toxic? I'm sure only Trey and Alicia know that. And, well, MJF too, because after all, he knows his wife's side of the story, and I'm pretty certain that's the only side he's concerned with. Listen, who are we to call into question the integrity and the outright secondhand denials by Tony Khan and AEW as told through Dave Meltzer? Who are we to question Dave Meltzer's word? It's no secret that Tony Khan prays at the altar of Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So why wouldn't Dave know exactly what's going on in that company? And when he tells us something is true there, why wouldn't we believe that it is? I mean, it's not like Tony Khan would ever call Dave Meltzer and ask him to spin a narrative or push a narrative that improved optics on the company, or even, God forbid, Tony Khan fed Dave some false information so that the narrative could be pushed organically. That would never happen. No, it's probably true that Tony Khan and AEW, who were super stoked to have signed the Rascals, would pull a complete 180 and shit can Trey Miguel before the ink on his contract was even dry, for reasons that involve a 6-year-old Facebook post, despite the fact that they kept another member of the same group, who's highly intelligent and makes great decisions, obviously, who posted a equally disturbing and could be seen as hateful piece of content. Even though it was private, it was exposed, but they keep that one and fire the other one. It's definitely got to be all about the Facebook post. No doubt that's what it has to do with. We found our answer.
It's possible.
But you don't believe it.
No, probably I don't.
Taking what we know to be true, taking what we're being told is true, what kind of conclusions can we surmise from this situation? In the interest of speculation and taking assumptions and boxing and bottling and selling it back to ourselves as undeniable truth, let's play the tape forward with a hypothetical. You guessed it. You know I love them. Imagine, if you will, you work for a company and you are this company's hottest commodity. You're a hot commodity like Julio De Niro. You are the face of the company. Do what you want. You say what you want. You can do no wrong. Everything you do, people are throwing babies in the air and proclaiming your brilliance. Brother, you are the man. And this company loves you so much. You make them so much money. They compensate you handsomely, and they bend over backwards to accommodate you, even hiring your wife, putting her on the payroll so that she can be present with you at the workplace where you, my friend, you're the man. One random day you stroll in, making it look oh so easy, much to your chagrin, much to your surprise, much to your shock. At the workplace, you see the ex-lover of 6 years of your wife, who is now employed at the company. And despite you being on the top of the food chain, this ex-boyfriend of your wife, well, he's been hired as entry-level middle management positioning. Now, imagine that this dude never really did your wife any harm. The only thing he's guilty of is that whatever was done to your wife, he did it before you. Now, there's something in men that it's a weird and impossible and ridiculous trait that we can't shake. But when we love a woman or a significant other, we put it out of our minds that they even had an existence or any relationships before we came along. We like to think that their life started with us. So imagine you're coming into work, and there it is, undeniable proof. Your wife had a life, had a love, having a relationship, had plans long before she was ever yours. She was somebody else's. Now, your continued success within this company is paramount and dependent upon your ability to perform, your ability to remain confident, the cock of the walk, your ability to maintain your sanity. Yet now you come into work, every time you walk in the door, there he is, your wife's ex-lover. Is there a chance that maybe, just maybe, that could throw off your mojo? Maybe, just maybe, there could be some concerns that could affect your self-esteem and thus affect your performance and thus affect the company that values you so. Now, I ask you, in this hypothetical situation, if you were the guy at the top of the food chain and this ex-lover of your wife was many rungs below you on the totem pole, would you be able to block it out of your mind, let bygones be bygones, and continue to work with, around, have your wife working with and around this individual from her past? Or, being the king of the castle, would you use your power to make that guy disappear? Now, I'm not saying that MJF was completely blindsided by the fact that he showed up to work and Trey Miguel was at his place of business. or that Tony Khan didn't even know that Trey Miguel was MJF's wife's former lover of 6 years. I'm not saying that Maxwell Jacob Friedman stormed into Tony Khan's office and said, "Hey, TK, that out there, that you gotta fix that. Otherwise, we're gonna have a problem." And I'm not saying that in contemplating ways to fix it, it was said or decided that it would be pretty bad optics if people were to find out that MJF was the reason that Trey Miguel got canned. No, it probably wouldn't look good for MJF from the boys' perspective. Definitely wouldn't look good for Tony Khan and AEW that talent is able to wield that much power and get other talent thrown out, fired, and decide who's all elite and who's on the street. So, what would be a brilliant way, an effective way, the perfect way to solve this little Trey Miguel problem? Well, didn't he say some really ignorant ass 6 years ago on social media? How about, and I'm not saying any of this happened, but wouldn't it be the icing on the cake if we're able to get that guy out of AEW and do so without putting any heat on us, while also dredging up some old ignorant ass that dummy did 6 years ago so that it can ding up his reputation as the door hits him on the ass on the way out. Now, I'm not saying any of that diabolical, brilliant plan came together and occurred. I'm not saying that happened because I don't know. I have no clue. But what I do know, what I do understand, is human nature. What I do understand, what I have seen, what I firsthand knowledge, extensive knowledge on, is the fragility of the massive egos of the biggest names in this industry. And what I do know is what good is power and the trials and tribulations you must suffer to obtain it if you can't use it to smite your enemies. If you can't use it to not become a product of your environment, but to make your environment a product of you. Trey Miguel was about to quit the wrestling business, so I guess it's good that he landed on his feet, but don't get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. This whole situation cost him a ton of money because AEW contracts are a mite larger than TNA Impact ones. But again, there's a lesson to be learned here, a valuable lesson to be learned that we can all learn from. And Trey Miguel paid the price to teach us this lesson. What's that lesson? If you do date within showbiz, better treat her right. I mean, I think that's a given, but even if it's not a given, if you weren't raised properly, if you're a real piece of shit, you better change and you better treat her good. And when the breakup comes, you better do your damnedest to make sure it's amicable and it's peaceful and you can remain on good terms. A buddy of mine used to say to me, you want to be able to look back on yourself while you're in the midst of a breakup and drowning in heartbreak and be proud of how you behaved. He said that to me, and trust me, I was not proud of how I was behaving at the time. Because the fact of the matter is, you don't have to have been an asshole to her during your time together. You could have been a great dude. You don't have to have become a psycho stalker, leaving her messages, calling her every name under the sun except the one her mother gave her. You could even split up and remain friends, and still it come and bite you in the ass. Because your mere existence will turn out to be a threat to someone else. Because you just never know. That same girl that looks you in the eyes says that she will never have a love as wonderful as yours. Guess what? She found a love even more wonderful than yours. And no longer is she slumming it with you in coach or business class and Spirit Airlines. No, 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 no. She's sipping champagne and eating caviar on a Gulfstream G650ER. And all this because of one ignorant ass Facebook post, right? Right. Let's talk about The Smashing Machine, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as UFC MMA pioneer Mark Kerr in his professional glory and personal downfall between the years of 1997 and the year 2000. The movie was made by the indie darling of Hollywood studios in A24. It was then produced by The Rock's Seven Bucks production company and directed by the fringe Hollywood hot director named Benny Safka. He's best known for co-directing Uncut Gems. This is a strange movie, I gotta tell you. I watched it and I still don't know how I feel about it. The performances were great. The acting was fantastic, man. It was great. But I just don't think it was a very good movie, if that makes sense. I mean, there were parts that weren't even meant to be funny. They were meant to be dead serious, and I found myself laughing out loud, which probably isn't the best thing, you know. It's funny because this movie's it's inspired, it's pulled from a documentary of the same name that was made in 2002. And a lot of the scenes in the documentary you see in the movie acted out to the nth degree. But it was kind of shot like a documentary, the feature-length movie. So it was really weird. And where Hollywood movies, there's a lot of fat trim formula, meaning if a scene or a piece of dialogue does not contribute to the story or pushing forth the narrative, you won't see it. That is not the Smashing Machine. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that just leave you hanging and sort of blowing in the wind. It's almost like too realistic at times. And a lot of the movie, so much of it, is just these wildly toxic arguments between The Rock's Mark Kerr and Emily Blunt, who plays Dawn Staples, who was Mark Kerr's wife or girlfriend at the time. And let me tell you, these people should not be in a relationship. The whole movie, they gave me anxiety the whole time they were on screen. They should never have met each other. They are not a good match. And if you ever have been in a toxic relationship, which I have, you'll recognize some of these arguments. A lot of good old favorites, such as "This isn't about you," or "Why are you trying to ruin me?" Or "Come closer, get away from me." Or old favorites like "So your friends are talking shit about me again?" And the "Never late. So why don't you love me?" There's one scene that's really good, man. They're being The Rock, and I'm probably gonna call him The Rock, even though he's playing Mark Kerr. The Rock and Emily Blunt are in this locker room before Mark Kerr's big Japanese MMA match, and it's for Pride. So it's also very cool to see like the early MMA culture and how it was in Japan. It's like a snapshot of that. And because it's also very parallel to wrestling at that time. And it's cool to see like how it was evolving. The rules were changing by the day because they were learning as they went what this thing was. So there's this scene where they're both Emily Blunt and The Rock are in the locker room, and Rock is he's just a few moments away from walking out and literally trying to tear another man life from limb. And Emily Blunt's character, she's like touching him and like trying to like get him to look her in the eyes. And he's cold shoulder. He's locked in. And she just stands up and goes, "I came all the way here and you're not even paying attention to me?" And he's like bewildered. He's like, "What? I'm focused. What the hell are you talking about?" And she just starts pecking at him. And she goes, "Well, maybe if I fought you, huh? Maybe you'd love me." And that's actually the point of the movie. And that's why it's kind of sad because Mark Kerr can't he feels closer to people that he literally is beating up or beating him up than he does to people who intimately love him. So it's wild. She says, "What do you want me to do? Huh? You want me to beat you up? You want me to punch you in the face?" And Rock goes, "Yes, I want you to punch me in the face. On the biggest night of my life, I want you to punch me in my f***ing face." And the Japanese handlers walk in right at that moment, like, "Hey, it's showtime." And Rock buttons up real quick, like he doesn't want them to see him arguing. And he stands up and goes to walk out. And he just shoots this side-eye look to Emily Blunt. And he goes, "You're out of fucking control." So that then leads to my other favorite, probably the most powerful scene in the entire movie. Because, surprise, he loses that fight, does Mark Kerr. And it's the first fight he's ever lost. So this is like the most humiliating moment of his life, which obviously the arguing had nothing to do with. This is the most humiliating moment in his life. He loses. His opponent knees him in the head 3 times while he's in the kneel down position, and that's illegal, but it was just made illegal recently. So it wasn't like the guy was trying to screw over Mark Kerr in the fight. So they stick with it though. At the finish, Mark Kerr getting up, The Rock getting up, leaving the cage, and it's like this one shot, and it's so awesome. He's walking through the past all the people, through the back, through the breezeway, and he just had the most humiliating moment of his life. He's never lost, and he lost in front of thousands of people and a pay-per-view audience. And he runs into the Japanese promoter who's like powwowing with some other businessmen and business people. And Rock goes up to him. He goes, "Bad fight, bad, really bad referee, illegal, no foul, bad." And he's trying to communicate that it was bullshit that he lost. And the promoter's just like, "Okay, well, I mean, the fight happened," but he doesn't say that. He's just being polite and like, "Okay, I'll talk to him." And then The Rock, it's so awkward, man. He gets on this elevator, the service elevator at the arena, and he's still in his gear and he's sweaty and he's bloody and he's got his weird hair. And as the service elevator is going up, he's not saying anything. He's by himself. And there's a ding, and the service elevator opens up. And a freaking, this is so real, man. What do you call it? A catering cart is wheeled onto the service elevator, and he's just like, trying his best not to lose it. He's being held together by shoestring and bubble gum. He's losing his mind, and this poor catering guy's just on the elevator riding, not knowing what the hell's happening with this big guy who's just probably steaming and giving off heat of 1,000 volcanoes. And so then The Rock gets up to the locker room, gets off the elevator, sits down in a chair, and breaks down crying. Acting, beautiful. It was so well done. But the point to all this is like that The Rock was absolutely fantastic in this. His acting was it was off the charts. It really was. He really captured this primal, aloof beast who is charismatic, but only when he's getting what he wants. And when he doesn't get what he wants, when life hands him a situation that he can't handle with either fighting or bullying or intimidating, he completely becomes unhinged. There's another scene, sorry, I know, probably giving away a lot, but there's another scene after that fight where he goes to this Japanese doctor and the doctor's giving him like, whatever, bandages or whatever. And he's like, Rock's like, you give me something stronger, narcotics, opiates. You get, and the Japanese doctor's like, no narcotic, no narcotic. We don't have that here. You need a certificate. He goes, yes, you go get certificate. You help me, go get it. Thank you. And the guy goes, no. I give you Advil. And he gives him Advil. And The Rock goes, honey, do you want some Advil? They're giving it out. So there was some really good stuff in there. And what's really interesting is that I can't help but feel that it's ironic that this movie is about a guy who gets the only way he gets his way, it's might equals right. He bullies and he intimidates the world into bending to his will. And he even says that in the opening monologue, which is fantastic, talking about fighting another man and the glory of combat and how you can feel when you collide with another fighter, whether they're going to put up a fight or crumble and dissolve beneath the pressure of you. And he talks about wanting to impose his will on his opponents. And The Rock, it would seem, wants to impose his will on Hollywood with getting this movie made because he is clearly trying to bully Hollywood into giving him a Oscar nomination, bully the Academy into nominating Dwayne Johnson for Best Actor. And I mean, he was really good. So maybe they should. But guess what? Just like the Japanese doctor, they didn't bend to his intimidation. They didn't bend to his will. And The Smashing Machine did not get nominated for Best Actor, nor did it get nominated for Best Movie. It did get nominated for Best Hair and Makeup, which how can you look at that? How can you deny that that is the best hair and makeup in a movie of cinema this year? Oh boy, yeah. So The Smashing Machine is on HBO Max streaming right now. I recommend you check it out. It's a neat snapshot of early MMA culture. It's a hell of a performance by The Rock. It really is, and it's a really weird, strange movie that's funny at times and probably not supposed to be. So if you like feeling really uncomfortable watching a movie, feeling like you're seeing things that you probably shouldn't, and you like being confused and not knowing whether what you're watching is high art and just great or if it's just complete dog shit, then the Smashing Machine is for you. Timmy Baltimore gives it 3 gimpy thumbs up out of 4. All right, y'all, look, I got a split. I want to thank you guys for rolling with me. Don't forget to hop on the short bus, click like, click subscribe, comment on the content. Let me know what you want to see on the show. Let me know what you think of the new format. Let me know. Just holler at a boy, holler at a boy, holler at a boy. Let him know. Yeah. And we'll be back here next week with more nonsense. And I hope you enjoyed the show. This has been, and I am, Timmy Baltimore, saying that limping ain't easy, but it sure beats crawling.
Brother, Baltimore! What's wrong with Tim?
Ay. No me gusta. Rest in paz. My vision is no, I'm not gonna do the voice the whole time, just kidding. It's really, really special down here. Down where? Down there.
My name is my name. Yeah. What's wrong with Tim? What's wrong with Tim? What's wrong with Tim? Brother, in Baltimore! Baltimore!